Hey everybody, it's Dr. Maya Alapin, Mama Soul Doc. I am not a medical doctor or a mental health care practitioner. So let's talk about how to speed up the process of problem solving. Now, in hypnosis, of course. Now, the usual traditional way of thinking about how to use hypnosis to solve problems is something like we have to take the client to a certain depth of trance, to a certain place in themselves. And then once they're there, there can be some kind of influence, affirmation, suggestion, language pattern, metaphor, storytelling. Something can occur that will create a shift inside of the client's subconscious. So the only trouble with that, of course, is when the eyes are closed. I don't know what you're doing in there. I'm guessing. Sometimes people resist that. Sometimes people just don't go with it at all, don't like it. And at the end of the day, if you're in a passive position with your eyes closed and taking in something from what the hypnotist is giving you, what is to say that your problems are actually going away, that you're solving them? So the real question is, does hypnosis do that work or is it something else? In the conversational hypnosis method, it's something else. And what I mean by that is the very definition of conversational hypnosis implies that we're having a conversation. And what are we having a conversation about? Well, it has something to do with the genesis of your problem. Now, does this have to be a certain kind? Like, does it all have to be regression or does it have to be, a certain kind of inner child therapy or whatever? The answer to that is no. And that is exactly what is so cool and so interesting about conversational hypnosis is whatever the client brings, whatever the subconscious in front of you is sharing is itself what is important. So if a client does not want to do some certain kind of thing like regress to a scene or whatever it is, their subconscious will not do that, will protect them from it. So that's why the method is so dependable and enjoyable and foolproof because the client subconscious does, in fact, do the work. The conversation and the questions are asking the client to retrieve information out of their subconscious. So it's that whole art of asking a good question and asking an appropriate question that will then give the client an opportunity to seek their subconscious. So in that process of going into the subconscious, the client is experiencing what is classically or traditionally known as fractionation. And fractionation is just the whole idea and concept that the more times we seek our subconscious and the more expert we get with interacting with it, the easier it is to become subconscious or to use the subconscious mind or to enter into the hypnotic or trance experience. So the whole beauty of conversational hypnosis is the questions are themselves therapeutic in the sense that they are meant to undo knots and solve problems. And by undo knots, I mean like take problems apart. But I should say, and on top of undoing knots, there is that fractionation experience, which is what the Q&A is creating, and that it in itself induces trance. So now going back to the original question that I was asking, like, how does traditional hypnosis do this? Well, it takes you into relaxation, then it tests the depth of relaxation, then, it imposes something onto you. Instead of that, now what we're doing is making sure that as you enter into that state of subconsciousness, you're not also taking with you the problem or the baggage that you brought. Because, of course, we don't want to go into a relaxed or a subconscious state willy-nilly, so to speak. It's better to do as the problems go away or as the knots come undone. I also mentioned depth of trance just now, which I think is pretty important and interesting. And that is to say, When you're inducing trance or forcing trance, then we're always asking, is it deep enough or are we at the right depth? But when we're using the fractionation experience of the Q&A, then the client themselves decide what depth of trance. Each question will take them to the right depth of where the answer is, which is some part of their subconscious mind. So then it doesn't become up to me to decide if it's the right depth because the client have themselves had the opportunity to seek that right depth for themselves as a matter of fact of the answer they give to my question. So my job is to allow that to appear. So the question is, how can we increase the speed of problem solving? Well, the answer is by dovetailing Q&A, question and answer, with the fractionation effect. The question and answer is itself undoing the knots or solving the problems, but it's overlaid with the entry into the hypnosis or the relaxation as a byproduct of the problems going away. And so it's that combination or that synergy of two different uses of the subconscious or two different uses of the mind overlaid onto each other, which creates that really undeniable effect, which is instant transformation or fast transformation, rapid transformation. So, long story short is to increase the speed of problem solving, what we want to do is ask a question which allow the client's subconscious to fractionate itself as much as it wants or as much as it needs, which itself will lead to trance and hypnosis, which itself will allow more of the solutions to join the party until the whole problem is dissolved. So that's kind of the long and short of how the conversational method is designed and why it's so fast and effective. And by the way, I think it also answers the question of why the change is permanent. Because once you've done that work of undoing those knots, especially in a hypnotized state, there's no going back. It's like, you've seen what you've seen. You can't unsee what you've seen, so to speak. So that explains the permanence of the method, which is really a non-method, by the way. It's kind of important to keep that in mind. Like the whole idea is to not have a formulaic approach, but the questions are decided in the moment based on your response to your client. And that's exactly what the course is about, is learning how to feel into that and how to create that so that you get to that ease of fractionation without having to guess or without having to pressure yourself. But I'll leave that for another video. So thanks for listening. This is Dr. Maya Elephant, Mama Soul Doc in Montreal, Quebec. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them. And if there's anything you want me to answer for you, please let me know. Thanks for listening.